Welcome back, geometry thinkers. Today's TEK is TEK G2C. Determine an equation of a line parallel or perpendicular to a given line that passes through a given point. The topic of today's video is graphing a line using two pieces of data, a y-intercept and a slope. Your learning objective for today is to graph a line using the y-intercept and the slope, and you will know you have mastered this objective when you can actually be given those two pieces of data, the y-intercept and the slope, and you can come out with a line on the coordinate plane. Every step you take and every skill that you learn makes you stronger. I know you can do this, so now let's turn your practice into your power. I want to quickly review this concept of a y-intercept. Now, a y-intercept is the point where the graph crosses the y-axis. Now remember, the y-axis is the one that goes up and down. The x-axis goes to the right and to the left. So if I'm looking at my four graphs right here, and I highlighted my y-axis, that would be this axis here, this axis here, this axis here, and this axis here. So I have a positively sloped line right here. If we make this graph bigger, you're going to be able to see the y-intercept is where the graph of the line crosses the y-axis. So it would be at this point right here. If we have a negatively sloped line, let's look at this. So notice that the negatively sloped line crosses the y-axis at this point. So this point right here would be considered our y-intercept. If we look at a graph of a horizontal line, which means the slope is 0, what happens is you will be able to tell what the y-intercept is because the graph intersects it on the y-axis. Let's look at this concept of an undefined slope. Now notice that an undefined slope means that it's a vertical line. So unless that vertical line is the y-axis, it is not going to touch the y-axis. It's always going to be parallel to the y-axis if it's another vertical line. So there is no y-intercept in this last example. But here, here, and here, we do have y-intercepts. Another concept I want you to remember is the slope-intercept form of a line. And so that is an equation that begins y equals, and then on the other side of that equation, we have mx plus b. M is our slope, b is our y-intercept. So anytime we have an equation and we put it into the form of the slope-intercept form, we can immediately tell what's the slope and what is the y-intercept. Let's do an example problem. The instructions read, graph the line whose y-intercept is 4 and whose slope is a negative 1/6. Y-intercept is 4, slope negative 1/6. So if I know that the y-intercept is equal to 4, I know that the coordinates of that point right here would be go over 0, up 4. Those are the coordinates for our y-intercept. Now the slope they gave us was a negative 1/6. They could have put the negative here, they could have put the negative up in the numerator, or they could have put it down in the denominator. But in this example, it's in the numerator. So what we have is, we have our slope equal to a negative 1/6, but we also know that that negative sign can shift to the bottom. So it can move to the denominator, making the slope 1 over a negative 6. So notice here, the rise is negative, and then here, the run is negative. So our first task is to actually graph the y-intercept. We know that it hits at 0, 4. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to put a dot at 0, 4. Now, I'm going to take this slope right here, negative 1 over 6. I'm going to start where it crosses the y-axis at our y-intercept. And so this slope tells me I go down 1, and then I go forward 6. Down 1, forward 6. Down 1, forward 6. Now, notice, how many points do you need to draw a line? You only need 2. So if I have the y-intercept, and now I have this line right here, all I need is to connect those 2 dots, and I have the line we're looking for. However, what I want to show you is that this other slope right here is also going to get us that exact same line if we draw it. So here, my rise is 1. So I'm going to take from the y-intercept, I'm going to move up 1, which brings me here, and then I'm going to move back 6 because my negative is on that 6. So I go up 1, back 6, up 1, back 6, up 1, back 6, up 1, back 6. And so these 2 slopes will get me points from which I can draw the equation or the line. So I connect my 3 points right here to here to here, and I extend them out with arrowheads because this is a line. And now I have graphed my line. So I want us to find the equation of a line, and we're going to put it in slope-intercept form. So I know that my slope is a negative 1/6. So that's my m. I know that my y-intercept is a positive 4. So that is my y-intercept. If I put both of these pieces of data in the equation, I get what we call the slope-intercept form of a line. So this right here, y equals negative 1/6 x plus 4, is the name of this line. Let's look at another example problem. The instructions read, graph the line whose y-intercept is a negative 5/2 and whose slope is 3. So my y-intercept is going to be a negative 5 over 2, which I can write it as a decimal number, meaning a negative 2.5, or I could have written it as a negative 2.5 if I wanted to use a mixed number. So I'm going to write it as a decimal. So I know that my y-intercept is at a negative 2.5. My slope, however, is just a numerator. It's just a 3. So I'm going to say my slope is 3. I know that I can always write this as a fraction by putting the numerator over a 1. So my rise is 3, my run is 1. Rise 3, run 1. Also, I can take this, since both of these are positive, I can make the 3 negative and the 1 negative, and what I end up with is a negative 3 over a negative 1. This negative 3 is my rise. This negative 1 is my run. So we're going to follow the exact same procedure we did on the previous problem. We are going to graph our y-intercept. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to go down to a negative 2.5. So notice right here, I put my dot at that halfway mark between negative 2 and negative 3. Now my slope says that I can write it as a negative 3 over a negative 1. So that means that I would drop 3 and I would go backwards 1. go down 3, backwards 1. And that moves me from this point to this point. I have enough points to draw what this line looks like. But I want you to see the positive slope and what that looks like on the graph as well. So the positive slope up here is a positive 3 over 1. So I'm going to go to my y-intercept, which is right here, and I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3. Then notice I'm going from half mark to half mark to half mark, okay? Again, our y-intercept is right here at the negative 2.5. Our slope tells us to go up 3 units. So that's going to bring us from a negative 2.5 to a negative 1.5 to a negative 0.5 to a positive 0.5. So here's our 3 units going up. 1, 2, 3. And then we're going to go 1 unit over. And that brings us right to where the line is located. I want to come down here and I want to draw our attention to this. What would be the name or the equation of this line? Well, we know that it's in slope intercept form. So what's the slope of this line? 3. What's the y-intercept? Negative 2.5 or a negative 5 halves. So I can rewrite this, simplifying it. Instead of adding a negative, I can just write it as y equals 3x minus 5 halves, and we are done. We have literally taken the y-intercept and the slope and come up with the equation of this line in slope-intercept form. Now it's your turn to take the lead. Let's see how you can apply what we have just learned. The instructions read, graph the line whose y-intercept is the origin and whose slope is a negative 2 over 5. Remember to show all of your work in your notebooks and be sure to box your final answers if you are able. Your written work should be clearly showing how you're thinking so that I can follow along with your logic step by step. If you have any issues or if you have any questions, please ask for help. You may check your answers on the next slide. Now, please pause the video and complete your work. When you are finished, press play to continue. Here's the answer to the problem. Please pause the video and check your answer. When you are finished, press play to continue. But notice, I also included what would be the name of the line in slope-intercept form. So this tells you the name of the line right here, and this shows you what the line looks like. And all of that came from the information that we were given. The origin and the slope being negative 2 over 5. This is it for today's video, guys. If something doesn't make sense, that's your cue to ask questions. You can come to me, you can talk to your classmates, or even try AI for a step-by-step explanation. We are all here to help you succeed. Now, you learn best by breaking bigger concepts down into smaller ones, step by step and skill by skill. You are turning your practice into your power. I believe in you and I know that you can do this. You are on your way to success. Have a great day.